Good evening and namaskar. Welcome to our May edition of Humanity 2.0. Launched in 2018, Justice Collective is a blogging platform for insights and opinions on a broad spectrum of issues under the theme of justice. So the platform was envisaged as something that would work as a point of confluence for thought leaders, practitioners, justice workers, and in fact, anyone who has a perspective or experience related to justice or the lack of it in our society today. Justice Collective serves as a prompt for dialogue, concerted and definitive action, coupled with a hope that every effort, however small, triggers a quantum leap in the fight for justice. Humanity 2.0 surprisingly took off as an initiative in 2020 during the pandemic lockdown. And it was envisaged as a platform that would spotlight or provide opportunities for one-on-one conversations with authors, artists, thought leaders, and practitioners in the work of justice to explore and articulate issues and perspectives as change agents to influence public discourse on protecting the poor from violence. Though it was started in 2020, it has gained a lot of visibility and traction through engagements with an entire spectrum of personalities from different walks of life, the most recent of whom have been Sanjoy Hazarika, Sohail Hashmi, Ram Gidumal, George Abraham, and Rachel Thomas. For today's conversation, I'm delighted and elated to welcome and to provide a stage for a very eminent personality who has been an awardee of the very, very prestigious Sahitya Academy Award. Please join me in welcoming Mahesh Dattani. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for making time to be a part of this conversation today.
Not at all, Prashanti. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I've really been looking forward to this conversation with you.
Absolutely. I have been looking forward, and also there was a lot of trepidation, if I might say so, because I was, in awe. I am in awe of your writing, and also of the fact that you have made a name for yourself in a field that could have been quite difficult to start off with. So as we start this conversation, sir, let me just dive deep and dive fast into the questions that have been in my mind almost for the last month and a half, ever since we knew that we were going to be having you on this show. So in your book, Me and My Plays, you recount your first encounter with theater and your almost instinctive, intuitive connection with this art form. You describe how, even as a 9-year-old boy, you knew that when one of the characters pulled out a gun, the weapon changed the tone of the play entirely, and how you knew that it meant that the gun would go off at some point in the play. To me, this is intriguing. So could you take us along with you to the very beginning of this undeniable pull the theater has had on you?
Okay, well, that's an incident that I really can't analyze and say what exactly I was thinking at that point, because I was just completely awestruck by what was going on stage. It was my very first experience of a play on stage. I mean, at 10, 12, I was introduced to cinema. Because both my mom and dad were very fond of the cinema, as most people of that time, and we used to go for what we used to call first day first shows, like Friday things.
Yes.
So my dad would sort of book the tickets in advance, and it would be such a family event. Things have changed now, but let me not go into that now. But when I saw this play, it wasn't Gujarati. There was something about not just what was going on stage, but even with the audience, that it was a very chatty, noisy audience, and there was there was this crackle in the air of people recognizing each other, because it was community. It was a community event. living in Bangalore, if there's a Gujarati play coming down, it's not just the theatre buffs who would come to see the play, but anyone who wanted to support the community or support the language, of their native place. So there would be all this buzz of recognizing each other and all kinds of things, matchmaking going on. And it was like a major thing for matchmaking as well, where little boys and girls, so pleasant, right? And in this kind of atmosphere where the play was like secondary, for the play to suddenly stun everyone into silence, I think was quite an event.
Right.
To suddenly have this silence where all the chatter just
Died down.
died down, in an instant, when at the moment you mentioned, when the gun was brought out. And I think that somehow fascinated me. And of course, in the play, later on, I came to know it was a very famous play by a Gujarati playwright whose pen name is Madurai, but his real name is Madhusudan Thakkar. And many years later, I actually got a chance to speak to him, and I did recount this incident, and he was quite thrilled to hear that. So it had a very interesting way of building up tension. Like the gun goes off, and it's actually someone in the audience who gets shot at. The member of the audience, obviously it was an actor, but was
already in place,
reserved for the chief guest, right? So for a minute, everyone was shocked. What's going on? And it was at the interval, there was this buzz again, but everyone was talking about the play as to what. And this is very much a part of the play, because the second half is like a murder mystery as to why did this actress shoot that man down. And so it just hooked me instantly. And somehow I knew I had to be a part of this world. And
there's no looking back.
Yeah. Well, of course, I was 10, 12 then, so I didn't have too many opportunities apart from trying out for the Christmas pageant in school. And I think I had a very timid voice, so I did not get any speaking parts. But I remember being one of the angels who comes to the manger to bless, baby Jesus. And it was a real sort of fun. I had to flap my wings, and I forgot to throw the stardust when I was supposed to do it. And I was actually terrified because I could see my teachers in the front rows sort of, looking very sternly at us to make sure, don't make any mistakes. None of you make mistakes.
I mean, since you talk about the Christmas pageant, I remember that my first time on stage was as Mary, and I could sing, a very high soprano, and so she does sing the Magnificat. That's the song that Mary sings, and so that was my induction onto the stage. I mean, I haven't done too much after that, but
but what a pity! I mean, if you're blessed with such a voice, you should pursue it. What are you doing interviewing people like me?
Well, I mean, this is, I think it has become a passion over the last couple of years since I've had this opportunity to actually have these conversations and to host such, colorful, if I might use that word with a little bit of care, colorful personalities. And today it's all color. I mean, I'm just so thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you. But I'm really curious. There are several dialogues and discussions around how personal or autobiographical a theme must be in order to be authentic and strike a chord with the whole gamut of life. I mean, the writers, the actors, the audiences. How close do you personally think one must be in order to write or emote or breathe life into a play or even a film script for that matter?
Well, here's the It's a kind of liminal space between personal and socio-political. I think you need both. So I always say that there are two things. There's the author's voice and there's the author's gaze.
Right.
I don't think you can go completely in one direction, that it's the space in between the two, that it's not autobiographical as such, but it is a personal space. I mean, it's something that's either lived or absorbed or experienced or whatever that it does. So I would say personal, not private. And it could be private. There's nothing wrong with that. A very, very private space that you express through art. Many artists do that. But for me, I think I need both. I need my voice and I need my gaze as well.
Right.
So it's for me, it's this sort of very sort of fluid space between those two. So I'm not sure whether I'm articulating it correctly, but it's
no, that makes absolute sense. And I also then, my next question would be, I mean, where is the place for imagination then? Because if it has to be either based on personal experience or on reality as we perceive it, where is the space for imagination? Where is the space for creativity?
Imagination is where art lives. I don't think it is. It's some kind of a faithful representation of, when I say it comes from the personal and the socio-political, that's, I think, the point of departure. But unless it comes into the plane of imagination, it really doesn't have any space in art. So I think imagination is key to whether it's acting, whether it's writing, whether it's painting or sculpture or theater. It's if you're not engaged holistically, which would mean intellectually, emotionally, imaginatively, and I think it's I think it's a holistic way of being. I think that's what art does to you, and that's why art is used in therapy, and art is used in a way self-discovery. Art is used in a discovery of your world. There's so many discoveries and revelations which happen in the process of art making, and this is precisely the reason, because you're drawing upon all your life sources. It's your feelings and emotions and experience and intellect and imagination. Everything comes into play.
That's beautifully put. Yes, sir. Yes. We kind of live in a milieu where dialogue and discussions around displacement and identity have almost become diurnal. You describe your fascination with the English language, like with poets who wrote in English and the body of English literature, as something which led to a kind of a linguistic displacement. How did this shape the course of your career, which has been, of course, punctuated by several prestigious awards which applaud you as the first Indian English playwright? I mean, my question is, do you think that your displacement perhaps worked in your favor?
I think that's true of all artists, that I think you can't be comfortable and create art, because art does exist in the unknown. And I think if it is, if you choose, I mean, identity is also a question of choice. I mean, it's how you identify yourself. You could identify yourself as male, female, or you can identify yourself as, with an ethnic identity or a religious one or your regional one, whatever, or your profession or whatever. And I think if you're very comfortable with that identity, the chances are that your what you create in the art world might be a little boring, maybe. That I think displacement is a good thing. And again, it is this liminal space where you're displaced and you haven't been placed.
Right.
And that happens with artists as well, that with a modicum of success, you get placed, and if you stay in that place long enough, then it's going to affect your art. So you've
Yes,
got to move
yes,
on. Yeah. So
yes.
it's like displacement is your place in a way that homelessness is home kind of thing.
Well, I mean, while it sounds really, if I might put romantic, to actually feel that way, I mean, the human mind or the human heart or the psyche is kind of wired towards wanting settlement, wanting to stay. Whereas you're suggesting that being on the move is great for art. I mean, I know that I have friends who are painters who always say that, especially when they are in a place of pain, is when they are most in touch with their
Mhm.
ability to create art. Now, that's just the exact opposite for me. I have to be in a good place in my head to be able to do any amount of writing. I mean, I do a little bit of a modest amount of writing, but if I'm in my experience, then I find that the words sometimes are not enough to hold my experience, and so I may not be able to write at that point of time. What has your creative process been like? I mean, what is it that you draw from, and is there a process that you follow? I mean, that's something that I would really be interested to know.
Well, yes, Prashanti, the thing is that I may be guilty of romanticizing the process a little bit, but that's really not what it's about. If you really want work to be done, I think it's down to a very nuts and bolts kind of thing. Is that you've got to make the time if you're a writer, you've got to make the time, where it's almost like a ritual where you sit at your desk and you in the early days you sharpened pencils and made sure there were enough pens around and paper around and things like that, and you just waited for things to happen, and I think that kind of ritual, I think, is very important for at least for me. I can't say it's important for art, but without that, I really can't do much. I don't think I will be very productive if I'm in this sort of thing that, I have to feel displaced somehow, or I need to suffer, or whatever. I, I think there was this beautiful one artist described it so well that he said that we talk about aesthetic in art, and he said the best way to understand what aesthetic is to look at poetically its antonym, and he said the antonym for aesthetic for an artist is anesthetic. And I thought that was a
Oh,
beautiful
wow.
way of, yes, putting it,
That's
that,
beautiful.
if you're numb to life, if you're numb to your sensations, there's nothing you can respond to. There's nothing you can create. And even your imagination is going to fail you at some point. So I think that's a great way of understanding aesthetic, art and aesthetic.
And
I that
yes, yes.
your senses are alive, your intellect is alive. So in a way, I think it's not wrong when people say that I need to feel pain to create, because what you're doing is that you're feeling, right? But I
Yes,
think if
yes.
you feel joy as well, that you can create. So it's really being open to life, that
Right.
that's what you want.
I do believe that there is a place that we store all the information, all the experiences that we have, and to be able to draw from that for the authenticity. It need not be that the art comes while you're in it. It could also be that you are drawing from it because that is being open to life, yes. But well, I mean, like I said, my friends who are painters felt that they needed to be in it while their art was more natural, was flowing more with more authenticity. But I agree with what you're saying as well. And I mean, yes, of course, being open to life is the conduit to be able to touch that artistic and creative parts of ourselves, I guess.
That's right. But again, if I may sort of nudge it back into the direction of what I call the liminal space, that is not in between spaces, then you're in it and you're out of it at the same
Correct.
time.
Correct.
I think it's that dance between in and out, which I think it's a beautiful place to be in. It's
Yes. Yes. And
magic.
I love the word that you brought into the conversation right now, and which is a beautiful segue into my next question, which is about your play Dance Like a Man. So Dance Like a Man is one of your plays which went on to become a defining piece of art, and it showcases your own passion for dance. So in your book, Me and My Plays, you describe, very vividly the sniggers it elicited from even those you probably hoped would understand and encourage you. Could I request you to tell us a little more about how you persevered in learning dance from the absolutely best gurus and what led you to the play you wrote?
Yeah, I was really fortunate to have, the best gurus that the country could offer at the time. Sri U.S. Krishna Rao and Srimati Chandrabhaga Devi. They're no more, both of them. But they were well in their 80s when I started learning from them. Yeah. And they were the direct students of the Tanjore School. Which is, the Pillai brothers, the Tanjore, what they were known as the Tanjore Quartet, the four brothers. And a whole school of Bharatnatyam came from that, from those brothers. And my gurus had learned directly from one of them. So for me, I think that was far more precious than what if people around me didn't understand what was the, and also it was a bit hypocritical because I did learn jazz ballet for a while, and that seemed to be okay, but learning Bharatnatyam somehow was not okay. So I think it's also the fact that Bangalore at that time was an aspiring culture. That I didn't come from traditional sort of Kannadiga culture. So maybe the people I was associated with and even theater people, they couldn't understand why I would want to learn Bharatnatyam. And it just didn't seem to make any difference because I feel that this was something, and although I never became a dancer, because that had started too late. I was already in my 20s when I began. But there was something about dance that always fascinated me. I can't explain it. And it's not that I wanted to be a dancer. It's just that the visual appeal, even now when I see someone even just, shaking to some, beat, and they're doing it well and, in a free way. It just fascinates me. I'm completely in awe of people. Like in my neighborhood, there's this lady who is probably in her 80s. And, at parties and things, she just comes alive because she's perfectly willing to, to jump right in, play one of those old numbers that she's fond of, and do the film numbers, dance with all the adai and all this. And she's wonderful. I mean, she's so beautiful when she dances. And I think it's such a delight to see that. And I think there's something about dance and life also, again, which I see a connection because, again, the body is so alive. That the intelligence of the body just comes out, not just for the dancers, but even for the viewers. Because again, you're relying on, you're receiving art through, I don't want to go into all that, but mirror neurons, that you're actually in a way vicariously.
Yes. And I totally, I mean, I understand what you're saying, because I'm in awe of people who have that hand, eye, leg coordination. Because personally, I feel I have two left feet,
Mhm.
and I may dance in my head, but for the life of me, I find it so. I find myself unable to dance, and I think it's also because of that, uh, of not being able to let myself go, because it means you let your body do, it its thing, what it's able to do. But if your mind is going to be controlling it, it's not going to be able to do what what it can do. And I think for me that has been my feeling, that I can't dance, maybe because I don't allow my mind to step back a little bit and just let the body move.
Yeah.
But I'm in fascination. I mean, it fascinates me, and I'm in awe of those who can actually beautifully emote through dance as a form of art.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's
So,
just wonderful.
um, so at this point, I just want to take a small breather to welcome all those who have joined us on this conversation with Mahesh Dattani. Thank you so much for being here. Please do feel free to drop in your questions, observations, anything that you would like, sir, to talk about or address. Thank you for making time on a Sunday evening to be here on this Humanity 2.0 conversation with Mahesh Dattani. As we continue, I think there are a couple of questions, or actually observations. So there is one from Kiran K, who says that uh, a great fan of your writing, Dance Like a Man, A Tale of Dances, Dancers, Modernity, Tradition, Relationships, just wow. Then we also have Raja Datta, who says, maybe imagination is the filling up of the blanks, even in the space of personal recollection. I think this was while we were talking about that space that you were referring to, sir.
Well,
Um,
that's interesting. That
yes,
it is in a way filling up something, that is blank
yes,
or
yes.
whatever. And you recall through different sources. It doesn't have to be memory. It could be from some kind of collective unconscious that you could recall. Yes, that sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Interesting. There's also a question from Padma Kanani, and the question is: can creative writing be cultivated? Is it inborn?
Hmm.
And I think then Raja Datta continues to leave a comment by saying, I think, be it any kind of performing arts or visual arts, imagination itself marks the authenticity. Here, by authenticity, I refer to the individuality. So to say, imagination itself is personal. The form and expression of the art presents the imagination into the real space. Well,
Hmm.
that's very, very deep. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
thank you so much, Raja,
Yeah,
Raja
thanks,
Datta,
Nadia.
for your comment and for taking us into a deep place of thought right now. Um, but as we continue, please do leave in your questions and your observations, and we will definitely get space to be able to address those as well.
Yeah, I'll respond to Padma's question.
Sure.
Uh, Incidentally, Padma is my sister. Right?
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here.
Well,
Okay.
yes, I believe art is inborn. And I think I would also like to extend that by saying that all of us are inborn with art. There's that if you're born human, then you're a born artist. It's a gift given to the human species because that's one thing that differentiates us from the other species. And why is it that some people are artists and some are not? It's probably because we forget that we are artists.
Artists. Wow, that's beautifully put. The fact that we forget that we are artists. I hope that all of us who are here on this call today, on this conversation, will remember that we are artists. If there's one takeaway from our conversations, this will be it for me, sir. Thank you so much for reminding me that I'm an artist.
Yes, we
um,
all are. Yeah.
yes, thank you. That was a very timely reminder. I did want to go back a little bit because You said you started out as part of the audience in the theater, then you took the stage as an actor, and then you boldly introduced the playwright in you to the world with your first play, Where There's a Will. So, what did your personal journey through these developments look like? Were some fears put to rest, demons banished, and aspirations set free?
Mm. I think I was too stupid to be afraid. I wasn't afraid because I don't think it even occurred to me that I ought to be afraid of what. I don't know, And I guess I don't know whether it was the time I lived in. Expectations went so high in terms of artistic evaluation, or maybe it was just the part of Bangalore that I grew up in. So I was free to explore, experiment, and try things. Like again, when I mentioned to some people that I'm writing a play about Bharatnatyam dancers, which was my second play soon after Where There's a Will. Again, people laughed and said, how can you write a play about Bharatnatyam? Is it dance or is it theater? What, make up your mind what you want to do. That sort of is in different forms as you, and I see it as a positive sign that you're on to something new. When people start their sentence with "How can you?"
Yes.
But coming to Where There's a Will, that was very interesting because it was basically I drew from my father and myself initially. And I was making fun of myself first and then making fun of, because my father had a great sense of humor. In fact, he was there at the first show of Where There's a Will, and he laughed the loudest. And in the car driving home, he said that, when I said that, that's not what I meant. You changed the context. So we used to have a good laugh about that as well. So in a sense, that was very encouraging from the audience's point of view, because there were people who just came and said, at last, we're bored with seeing all these English plays where you guys put on accents and, God knows what you're doing. And, so there was a certain opening up, almost like, the emperor has no clothes kind of moment when we look at English language theater in the 80s in Bangalore, which was mostly a kind of clubhouse activity where you
Right.
And people liked it because of identity. People could think that's my father on stage, or that's me on stage, or, wait a minute, I know that situation, I've been in it. So it was a laughter of recognition, a laughter of identity, which I feel is what I would feel made it successful. And that was a turning point for me because up till then, I was pretty sure that I only wanted to direct because acting, yes, I started off with acting because I didn't know any better. That's what I thought theater is all about. And then I realized that, first of all, I'm a terrible actor and that I really didn't fancy being on stage. And I acted in the first production of Where There's a Will. And I remember the actress playing Kiran, one of the other characters, who comes in at interval point. When the play had begun, she hadn't arrived at the auditorium. And those phones, so you could call her. And so, the curtains go up and I'm in front of 1,000 people. And all I'm thinking is, has she arrived? I'm looking backstage to see if she arrived. And then it struck me that I really don't think I want to be on stage.
Yeah. Well, you had to take care of your exits and your entrances while the whole world is a stage, I guess, and everybody has to take care of their own exits and their entrances.
I'd rather be the metaphor than the machine that does deliver those lines, like all the world's a stage and we have our entries and
exits and our entrances. Yes. Sir, but you in your book you speak about stereotypes, and I know that you've encountered it so many times, in people's assumptions about Eastern and Western writers. Also, in the particular way the audiences responded to your play On a Muggy Night in Mumbai, you referred to the stereotypes that you encountered. You have broken stereotypes in several themes that you have chosen to write about, and that couldn't have been easy, right?
No.
So where do you seek and find the inspiration which catalyzes your writing? Like, who are your heroes, mentors?
Well, mentors, yes, I would say that my dance gurus were actually my mentors as far as my understanding of art is concerned. I could see, and there was so much I learned from them, which I used in the theater. My sense of time and space and everything came from my practice. And then theater, my mentor was really Alec Padamsee, who came to see my production of Dance Like a Man when I brought it to Bombay. And he invited us all to his home. And Alec and Sharon, his wife then, were such gracious hosts. And we were talking about theater. And of course, I was completely in awe of him because he'd done all these productions of Jesus Christ Superstar and The Man of La Mancha and everything. And he said that, you have a gift with, writing for the theater. You should focus on that. And I think in many ways, he helped me take myself a little more seriously than I did. That I don't think I would have been a professional playwright if it hadn't been for his encouragement, or the fact that that there is such a thing, that I could actually do it. I could actually, take to it full time. And so he was my mentor because he did 2 of my plays. He produced them,
yes, you mentioned
and directed them. And I learned a lot just watching him do it, because he had this combination of being very attuned to the script, but at the same time, his productions were very grand and very showy. He was a showman in that sense. He was like the Raj Kapoor of theater, English theater at that time. That, he focused on content, but he also knew how to make it accessible to, and make it popular.
Right. Just again, taking a step back again towards the process of actually writing, especially because you've done the writing in a space which, like I said in the beginning, could not have been very easy to be accepted. And as I also mentioned earlier on, as someone who dabbles in some form of modest writing, I'm intrigued and interested actually to understand whether your play comes to you all at once, or are there 1 or 2 like subconscious spaces where it goes through a gestational period, growing and maturing? Do you have that give and take? Are there changes? Are there alterations that you make in your play? I think I was just interested to understand that.
Yeah, well, I wish I was one of those writers who could just sort of write in their sleep and come up with the perfect first draft. That's not. I need to work hard. I think I do sort of write very badly on a first draft. And then I think I look at craft and look at, perspectives that are there, characters whom I've sort of had a blind spot towards. Is there something? So it's a process. And I think what's fascinating about playwriting is that the process doesn't end with you. It carries on into rehearsals as well. Because the actors feed into it. You're getting a completely different dimension to your writing. And that's the dimension it belongs. You're not writing for the page. You're writing for performance. So I think the final dimension, you get a sense of the final dimension when the actors begin to embody.
Yes, and of course, because that's the only way they can authenticize the role. because they bring their quirks, they have to bring a
Yeah.
little bit of themselves, or rather a lot of themselves, to your character. So does that sometimes make you rethink your character? Have you made changes based on, someone who was actually playing your part, the parts that you've written? For example, I know Lilith Dubé has been a very, very integral part of so many of your productions, and some of the roles have been written with her in mind, from what I
That's
understand from your book.
right.
And as a personality, I'm sure she brings in a lot that you would not have been able to envisage before she actually played the role and brought it to life. So have there been cases where you've made alterations or changes based on what, say, Lilith Dubé herself has maybe given you feedback on?
Well, most of the feedback is really about editing.
Okay.
And I think that's great because Lilette trusts me and my writing just as I trust her directing.
Right.
That we don't tread on each other's toes as far as these things go, because we're different people. We have tremendous respect for each other, but
Right.
we think differently, and we're great friends. I mean, I've known Lilette for what now? 30, almost 30, 35 years. Right. So that's a long time to know an artist. In fact, it's like sometimes I feel that we're like an old married couple, sort of bickering about things and saying, no, you can't do that. Or, that's not intense enough. And I said, how intense do you want it to be? And so we do have this sort of horseplay, but at the end of it, it's not really about changing so much as evolving.
Okay.
I think there's always this negotiation that, something is created and that's honored, but maybe it could be explored and strengthened a little bit more. So I would say that that's part of the process of writing for the theater, is that you work around these things, and it eventually is for the better because it makes the writing stronger, it makes the acting so much stronger. So
Right.
uh,
Well, I think what I'm asking here is there a sense of having to let go a little bit of what you've created, of your art? Because
I have to let go completely, not a little bit. You have to
right,
let go completely and say, this is not
right,
mine. I think one playwright put it really well. He said that writing a play is like giving your child, giving birth to a child and leaving it to a band of gypsies who are going to adopt it and
yes,
take it around all over. And then at some point, you're going to meet your child again, but the child would have grown and been more enriched because of the adoptive nature of of the band that took the child on. So I think it's you can't do theater without letting go.
letting go. Yes,
I
yes,
think whether you're actors or whether you're directors or writers, there is a sense of release that you are creating something and you do own it, but at the same time, it's not defined by you. It's constantly being redefined. Um,
I would say that is with every form of art, isn't it, sir?
I guess
Because
so.
you
Yeah.
have to let go. I mean, I know, when I was doing literature in college, the interpretation of what the poet or the whoever has created a piece of writing may have intended or has thought. I don't think anyone actually can go into the head or into the heart of the one who has actually produced it, or created that piece of art, whichever, whether it's music, whether it's painting, whether it's theater, scripts,
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yes.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And
I
it's
mean,
open for interpretation. It's
sorry.
always open because it's open for
Yeah,
interpretation, because it's those who consume that art who then give it a life of their own. Because I know
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
what it may mean for one person is not necessarily the same thing that it means for someone else. And the slices of it which resonate with different people obviously give it a different life than what we can imagine. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yes. There are a couple of, again, questions.
Mhm.
Raja Datta says, as today's session is about theater and its language, how do you look at the use of silences while performing? Do you consider it as a mode of communication? Like, can we call silence as a language?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. In fact, I think the silence is a more powerful
Poignant.
language
Yes.
than the words themselves.
Yes.
I think sometimes good writing, good dialogue is about creating the right silences.
Right.
So, of course, the silences exist because of the words, but I think they can be far more powerful. And yes, I do see that we do live in the silence. The story does live in the silence and in what's not being said as well. So it's like one playwright said that the playwright is the only artist who is not present at the time of performance. And another playwright, Paula Vogel, said, I disagree. I think the playwright lives between the lines.
Between the lines. Yes. Well, isn't it Rumi who said that silence is the language? And he actually said it's a divine language, it's the language of God.
Yes, it's
So,
the language of communion that
yes.
it's through silence that you can really connect with other souls.
Absolutely. There's also a question from Kiran. Again, Dance Like a Man, book or movie, which one is your favorite as a fan, not as an author or writer?
Well, that puts me on the spot because I'm not here as a reader or audience, but I'm here as the writer. Well, I loved the film, Pamela Rook's film, and I think I really don't see it as a book so much as a play production. So I think for me, it's either the production or the film. And I would say that the play works because I wrote it for
As a play,
school.
yes.
And although I did co-write the screenplay, I think were I to do it again, I would write it differently. That I don't think I managed to move away from the machinery of stage enough into the realm of cinema, because I think it was it was the second time I was writing a screenplay then.
Okay.
This was at a time when I had just sort of started plans to direct my film Mango Souffle, which again I'd written the screenplay for. And I think I would love to sort of, if were to be made into a film again, I would write it completely different. Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of art, isn't it? That if you were to write it differently, you would be looking at it from your years that have gone between then and now, and the changes in you as a person, and what has impacted you, the different experiences, your own personal thoughts, perceptions, and all of that. And I love the fact that art is not stationary at any point of time, and that it takes you along with it in a journey. It's not you taking it along, but your art takes you along with it in its journey. I just think that is so beautiful. I can't believe that we're almost at 1 hour. I don't even know how 1 hour has just flown by, sir. But I did want to actually ask this one question that has been with me right from the beginning of our conversation. Again, going back to your book, the one that you've written, Me and My Plays, you say you refer to your plays Dance Like a Man, Morning Raga, and Where Did I Leave My Parda as a trilogy. And collectively, they deal with three art forms: dance, music, and theater, which you call the metaphors for life. And here, I actually wanted to read a poignant paragraph from your book, which moved me intensely. And I quote you: "Now, when I look at the triptych as a whole, I feel that a part of me has come to rest. In some strange way, I have imbibed the idiosyncrasies of my characters, and in singing my song, or dancing my dance, or playing my role, I have a sense of accomplishment. Not an artistic accomplishment, which is a constant endeavor, but one of the spirit. I am now hungry to move on and find another person in me, a new playwright, maybe." And the question that I had was, what do you see the next few years bringing out on the stages of art and of civilization?
My God, that's such a huge question. Do we have another hour?
I would love to have you for another hour. Definitely.
Well, that's the thing, is that we don't really know. And that's the beauty of art, is that you're creating when you don't know. That's when you're the most creative. Because if you already know, then what is it that you're creating? And I think it's this not knowing which takes us into directions that are exciting and life-changing in some ways for all of us as a civilization, as people, as artists. I think it's the excitement of finding new life in what you're doing. So I think, yes, thank you for quoting that, because even hearing you, I sort of recalled my thoughts when I wrote that essay.
Right.
Yes, I think, first of all, Morning Raga is not a play, it's a film.
Film, yes, yes.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. It is, part of the triptych, because that deals with music. Music is part of the story. And for me, I guess maybe that's where the metaphor kicks in, is that that when you can dance your dance or sing your song, there is a process of individuation, some kind of completion of drawing from sources that go beyond the conscious for you. And I think this metaphor is perfect for expression. In fact, all the climactic moments in my plays is when this art form is duly expressed and contained in the person. And then the person feels a sense of release. So there is a sense of redemption.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
So,
that's, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I see that as a metaphor for life, that whatever we pursue in life, whatever our objective is, that pursuing a goal or something, that once it's met, it's actually one part of you has come to rest, and then you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I mean, that's such a wonderful note to also bring this conversation to a close. But before that, I just wanted to ask you, sir, whether there was any specific piece of art that you're working on right now, which you can talk to us a little bit about. Any project that's, that you're working on.
Yeah, well, I am. My next project is I'm directing a play with a theater group in the US, in New Jersey, and I'm looking at the stories of gods and goddesses, but with looking at non-mainstream stories, what are called uppkatha. That is, the stories lesser known.
Yes,
subsidiary stories. So I think it would be. I'm very excited with that, and I'm looking forward to that. Actually, yeah.
Well, we wish you every success. We wish that you break more and more stereotypes. We wish that you get more and more awards, sir, because you are a stalwart. You are almost taking, the torch ahead for other aspiring artists and writers exploring a world which may have earlier been thought foreign, but more and more is becoming a part of our generations as well, in the English language. Yes, there are more awards waiting you, and that's what we are cheering you on for. So thank you so much for making the time this afternoon, especially because it's a weekend, it's a Sunday, but we treasure this time with you, sir. And also to all the audience, to all those who have made time to participate, to listen in, to be inspired, and to take that reminder back with you today that every one of us is an artist. There are several ways of you, connecting with us at Justice Collective. At the end of the conversation, there will be a slide with some of the details for you to be able to reach us. Please do connect with us. We would love to hear from you. And we look forward to having you all join us in yet another edition of Humanity 2.0, these conversations that are meant for people like us to be inspired and to then move into action. So thank you once again, Mahesh sir, so much for being here this afternoon.
Thanks, Prashanti. Thank you for a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.